feels good not to feel terrified of you anymore. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm.
Not so scary after all. What is interesting to touch is the fact of the re-arising of that terror. It's really less significant for you to know what's going on when it's going on. In that sense, it's just information, because it's like, yeah. I mean, in short, obviously, it's consciousness coming down. It's him coming down into her, you know. What the interesting part is that which you can touch where you are, which is that what you can do is you can study yourself in that which you see as a reoccurring thing, and that is that terror. Like, how do you handle yourself when that terror arises? How do you study your patterns as the human that you are? Which stories do you run? How do you set yourself up to avoid allowing that simple drop down? And why is this interesting? It's interesting because when you study yourself in a way where you get the hang of these different ways of yourself, then yourself as consciousness has a much easier time just dropping the drop into the bucket of your belly. While if you don't study yourself, if you don't care enough to get to know how you work as this human being in that calling which is coming from God for your surrender, if you don't study that, if you don't know that, then this whole range of activity can be going on from when you are first called, it's like this, until you actually give in and allow the surrender and the opening. You see, so this is the importance of the investigation, because in that whole fan of things that can be going on in the middle, I can almost swear that you are creating trouble everywhere. Because that terror is there, it becomes a panic, and at the same time, rather than taking responsibility for the terror and the panic, then it starts acting out. And it becomes spending great times, like periods of time, in a state of being disconnected from yourself, from your state of surrender. I know I've been working on this for a few years or something. Yeah? Yeah. So be aware to include and incorporate that studying of yourself, because that will also start developing the aspect of your masculine, which is basically wanting to come in, to come and hold you. Because if you only focus on the feminine side of you, it's like you will never get to know that. It's like the balance, it cannot really happen. And that means that every time that your masculine is like, basically, every time consciousness is wanting to come in and down, you're rejecting it. Many threads here, many threads. Your father, like your relationship with men and men, like all kinds of things are weaved into this. The work on your ancestral lines, like everything is included in this. So what we can speak about is how, actually, I mean, now I just did it, but this is why it's interesting. This is why that investigation is interesting. Because it will ease the pressure on your human, and that in itself is compassion. Because when you have dissolved these threads of that rejection, which then comes to color like parts of your life like that, every time you are being called deeper, then that plays out. I think everyone here can attest to that. Yeah? Have you noticed that these cycles are going on, and then like, oh, you drop through, and then there's the relaxation, and then you're in the next rejection, resistance, on your way to surrender thing, yeah? So that is the cycle of life, but the way that we can shorten it is to actually allow that, exactly what you've been going through over the last days. So basically, I just assist that in the field here. Or I say I, but actually it's it's the part of me that's Padmasambhava. He's really helping you out. Yeah. And like the teachings going through on that, and the clarity, the thunderbolt I mentioned during the meditation the other day. But this you need to assist yourself in, because that allows for greater compassion for yourself as that woman.
So being deeply silent with the terror and holding it?
Yes. Obviously that's what needs to happen. But it's kind of like, I would say it even like this. It's like the masculine part of you, how to say this in a good way. He needs to get his shit together and align to be willing to hold you in that. So it's actually, there's one part of you which just doing the melting, but you're not just a woman. Even though that is what you prefer. But the preference itself is that which needs to dissolve if there is to be a genuine fluctuation between the growth of you as love and as silence. Because that rejection of the silence that is all the threads. That is all of that which your mind and your body and your feeling system, like all of it is put together out of this rejection of the masculine. It's a big thing for you. So I would like to just give you that one simple yes, but it is actually the stepping in yourself as the masculine, and allowing also for that masculine to play its part in your life. And to basically, I would say, if there was anything to do, because I can speak to that part, but it's like, it's more like your willingness to surrender to the masculine and not in another, in yourself. That is what needs to happen. When I was sitting with you, it's like, okay, you would like to engage, you would like to meet, and I was sitting with you. And the clarity of me was looking straight at your resistance, and then it kind of started crumbling. But this is exactly what you need to do. Otherwise you will need someone else to hold you all the time, and this is not what it's about. This is not real. If you want to come to that part where you can live in truth without becoming dependent on exactly this, then you need to work with the dissolution of your resistance against silence. Yeah. And in a way, when I say this, like, get shit together, it sounds hard, but it's not about hardness. It's about sharpness. It's like, as the sharpness of you basically, you cut through the, excuse my French, but bullshit. Yeah. Because if we're just rummaging around in that feminine, it's like, okay, we can't tell our foot from our nose. And then it's like, okay, then actually the feelings that arise out of that twist away from reality and all of this, you can't really tell what's what. And it's just giving everything equal importance. while actually everything which is just coming out of that non-silence, that needs to be sliced through with like a scalpel, precision of, okay, depth, willingness of depth to feel, willingness to allow that. And then when you are fully honest in there, then you will feel, I'm afraid. You will hear, you will listen, you will hear from the body, the terror, the scared. And then in that, being willing to let that being scared be the case, and then it pops. But you cannot do that if you are putting equal importance on all of the smoke that's coming out of that fear. Because when there is like afraid, panic can rise, and out of that panic, all kinds of voices, all kinds of things are wrong, like you're wrong, or this is wrong, or I'm wrong, or like all kinds of things can be going on from that place, where it requires you to, when you notice that you are not silent, that you slice through it by leaning towards your masculine as pure silence, which is basically the same as like cutting through all the noise, returning to that silence of being. Like that. And once silent, then there can be honesty.